All right, so Jay-Z is going to have another chance at filing a motion to dismiss. The judge just approved the request to file yet another motion. And it's interesting because obviously we had that order from the judge commenting on how much Jay-Z's lawyers were filing all these motions and how, it wasn't helpful, but she's giving him this opportunity. We're going to break that down in this video. I want to welcome you back if you've watched some of my videos before. If you haven't, my name is Jamahl Kersey. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've been practicing over 15 years, and on this channel, we're breaking down legal concepts so you are in the know. All right, so this is the process for this particular court. Now, all courts don't operate this way, but for this judge's local rules, you have to send a letter letting her know and letting opposing counsel know what you're going to be asking for, and then she will then approve whether she's going to give you the opportunity to file your motion. And that's exactly what Alex Spiro did. It looks like on December 30th, he filed this letter in court saying, hey, I want to file another motion to dismiss on these particular grounds. And let's start with the first ground. So this argument is a little technical, and I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible. But the issue that we have here has to do with statutes of limitations, right? And so the reason why we have statutes of limitations is to make sure that people don't have to worry 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road about getting sued for something that happened so long ago. It's almost like, if someone let you borrow $1 back in 1991, and then in 2022, they're asking for that dollar back. You're like, what are you talking about? You didn't leave me $1. Matter of fact, I lent you $10. You never gave me that money back, right? So it really makes it difficult when it comes to claims that come way down the road because, if you were going to call witnesses, those witnesses may not be around anymore. Memories fade. In terms of evidence, your evidence may not be around anymore. And it just really makes it difficult to defend a claim the longer out that something happens. So for example, here in California for a car accident claim, if you get rear-ended, you only have 2 years to file that lawsuit against the other driver. If you try and come back 3 years later, they're going to say, nah, the claim is time barred. The statute of limitations has already passed. So in this situation, obviously, this is alleged to have occurred back in 2000, right? We're now in 2025. This action was filed, towards the end of 2024, right? So around 24 years later, that's a huge passage of time. But the thing is, in New York, in particular, New York City, there's something called the Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. Wow, that's a mouthful, but basically that is the statute that allows this Jane Doe plaintiff to sue Puff and Jay-Z, right? So if it weren't for this particular statute, she wouldn't have any remedy to be able to come into court because so much time has passed. And so this particular law was created in response to a Supreme Court ruling in another case where a victim was not able to pursue with her case under the Violence Against Women Act. So under VAWA, they said, she couldn't pursue under that claim. And so, under that act. And so what it ended up doing was it kind of created a void where people weren't able to file these gender motivated violence claims, right? And so what the Supreme Court had suggested was, hey, we're suggesting that local jurisdictions, they need to create their own laws in order for their citizens to be able to make these claims, right? Because without having any particular statute to pursue under, a person is just basically out of luck. So New York quickly created the GMV law for short, that would allow people to then make these claims when they've suffered such an incident. But the argument is that this law was enacted in December of 2000, and this alleged act had occurred in September of 2000, right? So what Alex Spiro is arguing is that, hey, this law did not apply back when this incident allegedly happened. And so now we're getting into the issue of retroactivity of laws, right? In the United States, retroactivity is generally disfavored, right? So it's not something viewed as a positive thing for laws to apply retroactively. Well, what does that even mean, retroactivity, right? Let's just go back to elementary school, right? Let's just say that, on February 1st, they pass a rule that says, you're not allowed to chew gum in class, right? So maybe teachers, didn't really like it, but there was no rule in place, right? Sometimes they tell you to spit out your gum and sometimes they let it ride. But in February, administrative put their foot down and said, as of February 1st, you can't chew gum in class, right? Now, Johnny was chewing gum, in class back on January 25th. And so since the new rule passed on February 1st, they call him into the principal's office. Hey, you were chewing gum back on January 25th. We're going to write you up and, give you a referral, right? You're going to have to do detention. And Johnny's like, wait, hold up. That wasn't the rule back in January. How are you penalizing me in February when the law passed or the rule passed on February 1st? That's not fair, right? So that's how retroactivity works. And so you can understand why retroactivity would be disfavored, right? Because people should generally be on notice with respect to what the laws mean, right? Or what the laws are. But there are times where laws do apply retroactively, right? And that generally is specified in the statute, but then sometimes it's interpreted in case law. And so that's where, Alex Spiro and Jay-Z are arguing that this law does not apply retroactively. And Tony Busby, on Jane Doe's behalf, is saying that the law does apply retroactively. And we're going to see these motions when they get filed because they're going to have to, elaborate on their positions. Again, these are just letters kind of giving you an idea, a preview of what they're going to be arguing. That's the first argument, that the law does not apply retroactively. And so therefore, because this law didn't exist at the time of the incident, she cannot now take advantage of a law that didn't exist at the time of the incident. The second thing is where the act has to have occurred, because this GMV law is specific to New York City, right? So if it happened outside of New York City, then this GMV law doesn't apply. She would have to try and avail herself of some other statute, if one exists, to allow her to make her claims. And so that's where they refer to her allegations or her statements that she was driven 20 minutes away from Radio City Music Hall to this large white residence with a gated U-shaped driveway, right? And so what they're saying is that there are no such residents that exist within New York City, within the territorial boundaries of New York City. And so therefore, if it didn't happen within New York City, then the GMV law doesn't apply. And so therefore, this claim should be dismissed on that basis. The last argument has to do with a statute of limitations claim relative to New York state law. And again, this statute of limitations issue is coming up again, and we'll see how they argue it out in the motion. But that's, they're saying that, hey, this claim is time barred, and so therefore she should not be able to proceed on this claim. Now, I think naturally people are going to feel like this might be unfair if this argument works out, right? Why should you, on a technicality, be able to do away with a case where the allegations are so serious? And, I get that. But again, these statute of limitations exist for a reason. We can already see how some of these problems are playing out, right? The girl or the friend who was supposed to have driven her from Rochester to the VMAs, that person is dead, right? Her father doesn't remember having made this drive to pick her up and take her back. That limo driver would have been somebody we really would have wanted to hear from. There's a lot of issues. The gas station attendant, who knows if they've located that person, or if they're going to be able to locate to that person. Is he or she going to remember, what ended up happening back then? There's just so many issues, and the way this is playing out exemplifies why we have statutes of limitations, right? We'll see. Again, there's going to be actual formal motions filed. So they're going to file their motion. Tony Busby and Jane Doe are going to be able to file their opposition. Alex Spiro and Jay-Z will be able to reply to that opposition. And then there's going to be a hearing in front of the judge where they argue both sides, and the judge will rule as to, whether the claims are going to be dismissed or not. So interesting issue. Again, and I also want to say, obviously people have been commenting on the judge's comments, saying that, The arguments made in these pleadings thus far, are not helpful. It's a waste of resources, all that stuff. I know people are making a huge deal over this. The judge destroys Jay-Z's lawyer and all this kind of stuff. In the grand scheme of things, it's not really that big of a deal. I know it sounds really harsh, and to be fair, it was strong language from the judge when the judge is essentially setting the tone on how she's going to manage this case moving forward. But it's not like that's some huge knock that's ultimately going to cost Jay-Z the case. So when I addressed it, I didn't really make a huge deal out of it because in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. I know it sounds good for content creators and news anchors, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not really going to make a difference at all as to the outcome of the case. Well, there's obviously going to be more information when the actual motions are filed, but now you just have an understanding in terms of where they're coming from as to why they're going to file this motion to dismiss. And so let me know, do you agree with the approach, or do you think she should have her day in court? Let me know in the comments below. Again, if you got something out of this video, show me some love, hit that like button, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so you never miss a new video when it drops. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.